Who died in 2025? Notable deaths 2025. Pope Francis, Ozzy Osbourne, Diane Keaton are among those who died this year. Notable deaths 2025. The first non-European pope in more than 1,000 years. The Oscar-winning star of Annie Hall and The Godfather. A soul legend and one of the world's most famous designers. Here are some of the well-known faces no longer with us. Among those we remember are Hollywood stars Robert Redford, Diane Keaton, and Gene Hackman, and theatrical dames Joan Plowright and Patricia Routledge. Robert Redford. Robert Redford's acting career spanned more than 50 films and won him an Oscar as a director. For many filmgoers, though, he was simply the best-looking cinema star in the world, once described as a chunk of Mount Rushmore levered into stonewashed denims. As well as leading roles in hits such as All the President's Men, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and The Way We Were, Redford also launched the Sundance Film Festival to champion independent filmmakers. Diane Keaton. Los Angeles-born Keaton shot to fame with her role in The Godfather, but enjoyed a long creative partnership with Woody Allen. Annie Hall, a comedy based on their off-screen relationship, earned her a Best Actress Oscar, and they collaborated on several other films. She was nominated for 3 further Oscars, all in the Best Actress category, for her work in Something's Gotta Give, Marvin's Room and Reds. Prunella Scales. Basil. The unmistakable sound of Sybil Fawlty admonishing her pompous and incompetent husband is probably how Prunella Scales will best be remembered. Apart from starring in sitcom Fawlty Towers, she played many other roles on screen and stage, including Queen Elizabeth II in Alan Bennett's play A Question of Attribution. She also enjoyed an unlikely hit late in life with Channel 4's Great Canal Journeys, traveling waterways in the UK and elsewhere with her husband, the actor Timothy West. David Lynch, perhaps the most avant-garde filmmaker ever to make it big in Hollywood. David Lynch brought surrealism to the big screen in films, including Mulholland Drive and Blue Velvet. However, his groundbreaking TV series Twin Peaks remained for many his greatest work, portraying an idyllic American small town encroached by a chaotic, unconscious world. Malcolm Jamal Warner. Best known for his role as Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show, Malcolm Jamal Warner starred in the hugely popular U.S. sitcom from 1984-1992. He had been handpicked for his breakout role on the final day of a nationwide audition. "I was literally the last person they saw," he recalled in a 2023 interview. More recently, Warner appeared in several television programs, including Malcolm and Eddie and The Resident. Gene Hackman. As New York cop Popeye Doyle in the 1971 film The French Connection, Gene Hackman cemented his reputation as one of Hollywood's great tough guys. That role won him his first acting Oscar. The second was for the 1992 Western Unforgiven. Hackman also showed a gift for comedy in The Royal Tenenbaums and Young Frankenstein, among others. Dharmendra. Dubbed the original He-Man of Bollywood, Dharmendra was one of India's most famous film stars, with a career that spanned 7 decades and more than 300 films. He could turn his hand to romance, action roles, or comedy. One of his most popular films was the 1975 blockbuster, Sholay, where he played a petty criminal hired by the police to capture a villain. Dharmendra always said he was embarrassed by Talker's good looks and attributed it to nature, my parents, and my genes. Dame Joan Plowright. Born in Lincolnshire, Joan Plowright became a leading lady in London's West End in the 1950s. She appeared opposite Sir Laurence Olivier, the man she later married, in John Osborne's The Entertainer at the Royal Court in 1957. Her career lasted more than 60 years, earning her awards for both stage and screen roles. In 2004, she was made a Dame of the British Empire. Val Kilmer, the most unsung leading man of his generation. According to one movie critic, Val Kilmer starred as Tom Cruise's rival in Top Gun, Jim Morrison in The Doors, and less happily Batman, taking over the role from Michael Keaton. In the early 2000s, the starring roles dried up, and in 2014, Kilmer was diagnosed with throat cancer. Chemotherapy and radiation left him with a tube in his trachea and difficulty breathing, something that was written into his final role, reprising his Iceman character in the 2022 Top Gun sequel. Terence Stamp. A stalwart of swinging London in the 1960s, Terence Stamp became famous for a string of films including Billy Budd, Modesty Blaze, and Far from the Madding Crowd. as well as dating icons of that decade, Julie Christie and Gene Shrimpton. In the 1970s, he took a break from acting before returning as Superman villain General Zod, and later starring as a transgender woman Bernadette Bassinger in The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Brigitte Bardot, French actress who swept away cinema's staid 1950s, portrayal of women, and personified a new age of sexual liberation. On screen, Brigitte Bardot was a cocktail of kittenish charm and continental sensuality, but it was an image she grew to loathe, eventually abandoning her career to campaign for animal welfare. Later, Bardot's reputation was damaged after she made homophobic slurs and was fined multiple times for inciting racial hatred. Claudia Cardinali. Tunisian-born, Claudia Cardinali had a 6-decade-long career, rising to fame during the golden age of Italian cinema. She shot to fame in 1963, when she appeared in Federico Fellini's Oscar-winning 8.5 and Luchino Visconti's epic period drama, The Leopard. She also worked in Hollywood in the 1960s, starring in The Pink Panther, where co-star David Niven paid her the best compliment she said she ever received. Claudia, along with spaghetti, you're Italy's greatest invention. Dame Patricia Routledge. Dame Patricia Routledge was best known as Hyacinth Bucket, pronounced Bacazin, the BBC sitcom, Keeping Up Appearances. She's an absolute monster, and I enjoyed playing her enormously, said the actress. Other comic roles included her monologues as Kitty in Victoria Wood. As seen on TV, I could have married, I've given gallons of blood, and I can't stomach whelks. So that's me for you. Success in TV followed a long career on stage, both in the West End and on Broadway. Graham Greene. Canadian actor Graham Greene is best remembered for his role as Kicking Bird in the 1990 Western Dances with Wolves. It was a part for which he received an Oscar nomination in the Best Supporting Actor category. In real life, Greene was a member of the Oneida Nation, part of the Six Nations Reserve in southern Ontario. Greene had several jobs, including draftsman and steelworker, before becoming an actor in the 1970s. Other films he appeared in included The Green Mile, Die Hard with Vengeance, and Maverick. Pauline Collins. As Shirley Valentine, the frustrated Liverpool housewife who finds romance on a Greek island, Pauline Collins achieved international fame and an Oscar nomination. The Devon-born actress was already a well-known face on British TV before the 1989 film, starring for several years in hit ITV series Upstairs, Downstairs, and its spin-off Thomas and Sarah, alongside her real-life husband, John Alderton. Stanley Baxter. A big star on British TV for several decades, Stanley Baxter starred in a number of hit series between the 1960s and the 1980s. The Glaswegian comic actor specialized in parodies of television and Hollywood films, where he played most of parts. He also appeared in the ITV children's show Mr. Majika before retiring from television in 1990, but he continued to appear as a panto dame in Scotland for several more years. Rob Reiner, one of Hollywood's best-known filmmakers, responsible for a string of much-loved films across a range of genres. Reiner's work encompassed the classic comedies This Is Spinal Tap, and When Harry Met Sally, the courtroom drama A Few Good Men, and the tense thriller Misery. His directing career followed a successful spell as a TV star in the 1970s U.S. sitcom, All in the Family. Actors and performers who also died in 2025 include: this year saw the deaths of former U.S. Vice President Dick Cheney, the conservative politician Norman Tebbit, and the influential political activist Charlie Kirk. Dick Cheney, one of the most powerful vice presidents in U.S. history. Dick Cheney served 2 terms under George W. Bush, from 2001 to 2009, after the 9/11 attacks. Dick Cheney was one of the main driving forces behind the war on terror that followed, and central to the 2003 U.S. invasion of Iraq. Although known as a drier-than-dry conservative, he was a bitter critic of President Donald Trump, arguing in 2020 that there had never been an individual who was a greater threat to our republic. Lord Norman Tebbit. As one of Margaret Thatcher's closest political allies, Norman Tebbit reveled in his combative reputation. He was once described as a semi-house-trained polecat by a labor opponent. He also gave in the 1980s one of his most memorable political soundbites when he described how his father got on his bike to look for work. He left a conservative cabinet in 1987 to care for his wife, who who had been left disabled by the Brighton bomb attack 3 years earlier. Baroness Jenny Randerson. Liberal Democrat politician Jenny Randerson became the first female Liberal Democrat minister anywhere when she was appointed Wales's Minister for Culture, Sport, and the Welsh language in 2000. She held the position for 3 years and was also acting Deputy First Minister in the Welsh Assembly, now the Senedd, from July 2001 to June 2002. Charlie Kirk, right-wing American activist and influencer who co-founded Turning Point USA, a student organization focused on spreading conservative ideas on college campuses. Kirk became known for inviting students to challenge his worldview. Clips of these exchanges built him a huge following, more than 5 million followers on X and 7 million on TikTok, that helped to mobilize the youth vote for President Donald Trump in the 2024 U.S. presidential election. Baroness Helen Newlove. Helen Newlove's career in politics was driven by the death of her husband Gary, who was murdered by 3 youths in 2007. She served as Victims Commissioner for England and Wales, a role she was appointed to twice. She was made a Conservative peer in 2010 and also served as Deputy Speaker in the House of Lords. Jean-Marie Le Pen. An unrepentant extremist, Jean-Marie Le Pen succeeded in pushing his far-right views into mainstream French politics. In 1972, he founded the Front National, a party committed to stopping immigration. Le Pen's attempts to win the presidency foundered, although he finished runner-up in 2002. In 2015, he was expelled from his party by its new leader, his daughter, Marine Le Pen, after repeating a claim that the Holocaust was merely a point of detail in World War II. Political figures who died in 2025 also included. Our look back includes Beach Boy Brian Wilson, singer Marianne Faithfull, and reggae pioneer Jimmy Cliff. Marianne Faithfull. Marianne Faithfull rose to fame in 1964 at the age of 17, scoring a top 10 UK hit with As Tears Go By, co-written by her then-boyfriend Mick Jagger. But early success as a singer and actor was cut short by heroin addiction. Later in life, Faithfull enjoyed a second act and a new, gravelly vocal range, with LPs such as Broken English and collaborations with artists including Nick Cave and Tom Waits. Ozzy Osbourne. As frontman for Black Sabbath, the Birmingham band many consider to have invented heavy metal, John Ozzy Osbourne gained a reputation as a wild man rock. He once bit a bat's head off, both on stage and off. In the 2000s, he became one of the first stars of reality TV in the Osbournes, charting the everyday life of a rock superstar and his family. Jimmy Cliff. One of the first stars of reggae music, Jimmy Cliff brought the sound of Jamaica to a global audience with hits such as Many Rivers to Cross, Beautiful People, and You Can Get It If You Really Want. In 1972, he played a gun-toting rebel in The Harder They Come, one of the most successful Jamaican films ever made. Its title song, written and performed by Cliff, became as one of his biggest hits. Gary Monty Mountfield, bassist of the Stone Roses, the band at the forefront of the Manchester music scene of the late 1980s and early 90s. Their first self-titled LP was later named the greatest British album of all time by The Observer and the NME. It combined influences from rock, dance, and funk, all underpinned by Monty's bass lines. After the group disbanded in 1996, he joined Scottish rock band Primal Scream. Roberta Flack. Soul singer Roberta Flack trained as a classical pianist. She scored her first hit when she was in her 30s, and her recording of The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face spent 6 weeks at #1 in the U.S. and was named Song of the Year at the 1973 Grammys. Flack won the same award the following year with Killing Me Softly with his song. Sly Stone. Combining soul, rock, and psychedelia, Sly Stone and his band, The Family Stone, were one of the biggest U.S. acts of the late 1960s and early 1970s, with hits in their repertoire including Dance to the Music and Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again. They performed memorable sets in 1969 at Woodstock and at Harlem Summer of Soul. Sadly, Stone's career stalled in the mid-1970s as a result of drug abuse, and at one point he was reported to have been left homeless. Brian Wilson. Founder member of the Beach Boys, Brian Wilson was one of pop music's greatest composers. The group's early songs, such as California Girls and I Get Around, painted a picture of U.S. West Coast surfers living the good life, while the 1966 LP, Pet Sounds showcased Wilson's genius for complex melodies and intricate harmonies. Fragile mental health led to his withdrawal from the Beach Boys in the 1970s, but he overcame his demons to perform again late in life. D'Angelo, singer who pioneered neo-soul, a genre blending R&B with other types of music, including hip-hop and jazz. D'Angelo rose to fame in the 1990s with his debut album Brown Sugar. He went on to record 2 more LPs and won 4 Grammy Awards. Voodoo, which was released in 2000, was placed at 28 in Rolling Stone magazine's list of the greatest albums of all time. Dame Cleo Lane, famous for her huge vocal range and wide musical repertoire, Dame Cleo Lane remains the UK's most famous jazz singer. She was the first British singer to win a Grammy Award in the jazz category and performed with Ray Charles and Frank Sinatra, among others. However, her greatest collaborator was her husband, late musician and composer John Dankworth, with whom she established a career in the 1950s. Chris Rea. Chris Ree's most famous hit was Driving Home for Christmas. Written in 1978, released as a single in 1988, and still receiving substantial radio airplay every December since then. The Middlesbrough-born singer-songwriter also had success in the 1980s and 90s with tracks, including Aubert's On the Beach and Let's Dance.